Hello, my name is Toby Otto, and I was asked to share my testimony in English. Um, I was born in Eastern Germany, in the communist part of Berlin, um, and grew up with a family non-believing in Jesus at all. It's communist part of the town, so you guessed it right. And my parents are coming more from an art background. My mom was chef secretary in a weekly newspaper for art, and my dad was working in a theater. He was like a co-director from a theater, and they get to know each other from people who studied with them together. And so you have to know the artist community in Eastern Germany was not necessarily pro the government. And so, since even I grew up, I was not pro-communist, I was more against it. And the year I turned 11, like 2 weeks before that or so, they told me, oh, we're moving into West Berlin. Remember Berlin Wall? That was actually not possible. You know, people got shot when they tried to go over the border. But there was a loophole. There was family reunion law. So when you have family in the West, there was a way to go and be reunited with your family. And my grandmother and my aunt lived in West Berlin. And so on a rainy day in February in the early 80s, we moved to West Berlin. We only can take one piece of luggage with us. The rest, the Secret Service, the Stasi took away from us. And we had to go actually in the refugee camp because everyone from the East were interrogated from army, from US Army, from the British and the French, to check out if we are not secretly spies for the East. And after a week or so in that camp, we had to go to another camp and live there nearly 9 months until my parents managed to get work and an apartment. And so the current situation in Europe with people living in refugee camps and coming as refugees, I lived there, and even if I'm a elderly German guy, nobody would believe that. But this is how I started my days in West Berlin. I got really bad in school because in the East they had, their 5-year plans for everything, even for school. So my teachers are always taking care that I'm good in school, and my classmates too. And I was integrated in the class. Coming as a new student into school, I was the outsider. I was the guy from the East, and they make fun about me. And I got really bad in school, and my parents even didn't really realize it because they're busy to build up a new life and a new country for them, coming with basically nothing. And so after the first years in school, in Germany there was a school system. We had like 3 different school ways. High school, when you finish that, you can do your university and study. Then there's kind of middle school. So most of the people who went there, they do apprenticeship or working afterwards. And then there was Hauptschule, it's really low. It's mostly people coming from backgrounds like Turkish or Russian or foreigners, don't speak really well the language, and so they put them in that kind of school. And my head teacher also wanted to put me there, and that was a kind of wake-up call for my parents. And so they said, no, this is the boy has just a face. We will send him into the middle school. And we lived in the area in Berlin which is predominantly Turkish and Arab until today. It's called Neukölln. And so my school times was not really fun. So in my memories, I felt every second day I was beaten up from some street gangs. And so also some of my friends. And in the 80s, you belong to a youth group, if you want or not. There was no normal people or nerds or so. You are part of, let's say, punks or heavy metal. Hip-hop just came up, rockabilly, psychobilly, a lot of young culture. And me and my friends sit together, tired of being, always hunted, kind of. And so we decided to join the strongest gang around. And we decided to become skinheads. And you see, still my hair, same. just to clarify, not every skinhead is a Nazi. We joined a group as mostly foreigners and Germans together, so more the British way, let's say, and not so. I remember in some countries like in the US or in Australia or in Russia, so every skinhead equals a Nazi. That's I'm aware of it. And so also in the early 90s, when refugee camps in Germany start to burn because of Nazis attacking them, people often believe this is because of skinheads. And so the reputation of a skinhead in Germany through the press and through the media is that skinheads are Nazis. But I never thought of myself like this. I saw more, it's about music, it's about reggae music and ska music, it's about supporting your local soccer team, this is what we do, and going out on weekends and having fun, and naturally we meet the Nazi guys on the concerts, but these are our enemies, so we had a lot of fights with them, and so on the street to be named as a Nazi was even worse because this is officially my enemy and you call me like this. So for me, as at the time I was like 14, 15, I was thinking joining another gang that will make my life more easy. But the opposite is the case because now people can see me from far and see what kind of things I'm wearing, what kind of haircut I have. And so I have to be always alert this week, who are our enemies or who are our friends this week. And so still that whole gang scenario gave me kind of feeling at home, feeling as a replaced family. So it's like, you stand together, you fight together, you fall together, you laugh together. That's what I guess most of the gang thinks it's attractive. I don't want to blame my parents, they're wonderful parents, but they're busy again to build their own lives. And so this was a big part of my life. Even after I finished my high school later, because after the school I was thinking, I need to do high school. I did high school, then I even started to study. I studied politics and history. And a lot of my gang member friends became adults. They grow their hair back, they find a job, they get married, things like that. But I was like, no, I promise, And so I stayed strong in my opinion, a ridiculous opinion of other people, obviously. And one of my friends, he was influencing me a lot, even he don't know, I guess. His parents are from Serbia and Croatia, and if you take care in history, in Europe, in former Yugoslavia, they had civil war in early 90s. And if you watch TV, the people will tell you they hate each other, they kill each other. But this family was one of the families who invited us. We had a table and 6-7 skinheads were there, and they're really friendly and really positive. And one day I asked them, why what's the difference? Because my parents never ever would even take one of my friends in, and they had, they had meals for us prepared. It was really nice. And they said, we're Christians. We don't believe about where we come from and what. It's about God and Jesus. And it was the first time I really was hearing knowingly about Jesus. In East Germany, you're not hearing about Christianity at all. And their son, my friend, he became a Christian too, and he was kind of a missionary in our group, yeah. And so I remember days where we sit in his car for hours until the middle of the night for 4 o'clock or so, and discussing about, is it true, is it not true? And next day I had to go to work, and I was doomed, but I was thinking a lot, what is it all about? About my family background. My father's mom, they called my grandmother, Oma in German, she was married to a son of a pastor. But her husband died in the Second World War, and also the pastor. And she was afterwards like, if God cannot prevent that and cannot do something against that, then there is no God. And so my dad and his siblings are grown up and believe there is no God. And it's important for a part of the story later. And so I was thinking more and more, and maybe you all know Reinhard Bonke. He did once a mission thing in Germany, not Africa, in Germany. He was committed to give out a pamphlet, a little booklet with the New Testament and some prayer things for all households in Germany. And I lived also alone at that time, so I got one in my briefcase, in my postkasten, what is it, where you get your post. And then I was reading the first time, not just hearing from people, I was reading it, and I was like really starting to question things, you know. I'm a German, I don't need to have the feeling if something is right, I need to know, you know. Things have to make sense in my opinion. And this started to make sense, but I had nobody to ask. And that time I visited my grandmother, and in her floor there was like a rosary necklace, like and that time was like surfer necklaces, like wooden beads, and there was a cross on it. And I was taking it and I asked her, Oma, what are you doing with that? Because she's always so outspoken about church and Christianity. And she said, oh, I stole it in a Catholic church. And I thought, this is really funny. And she said, yeah, do you want it? I can give it to you. And I was like, yeah, it's okay, I like it. So I put that, this night I put the cross necklace on, and I was invited to be the bouncer of a party. There was people, my friends know, they were kicked out by their landlord, like a 3-room apartment, and they said, oh, what we will do, we will destroy the whole house. And so they invited more than 400 people, and they ripped off everything, and I was in charge to make it not that nobody dies, basically. So I was standing there as a bouncer, you know, my army shorts, big boots, and my little necklace, and suddenly a green-haired girl came and said, oh, that's a nice necklace. Do you believe in Jesus? And I was like, wow, the Jehovah's Witnesses are really bold, you know, the music is loud, people are vomiting, fighting on the floors, and I was thinking, sure, she is weird. I did confirmation, you know, in Germany, there's state church, and when you're like 14 or 15, you do confirmation, so you're officially part of the state church. And most of the young people do it because then there's a family gathering and they give donations, and that was my reason why I did it, because I get nearly 1,000 Deutschmarks in that time, 500 euros, just to be there. And so that was my answer. And she was like, no, do you have a relationship with Jesus? And I was like, what? I said, I don't know. And she said, yeah, you have to come to a church. And I was like, yeah, church, this is old people, this is called organ music, who want to go there? That's bull, basically, and nobody wants that. And she said, I will talk to you later, Otto. And I was thinking, why Otto? Because Otto obviously is my last name, but also it is part of my gang history, because all of us, we tattooed our nicknames on our chest. And I show you mine so you know. Can you read this? That's good. That means Otto. That's also not only my last name, it's also Italian and stands for 8. Because when we went for a mosh pit or pogo dance, I could face 8 of the punks or 8 of the opponents. I was not afraid to go in there and kick them down. I mean, we danced together, this is what I mean. And so she said, Otto, we see each other again. And I was like, yeah, if I visit a mental hospital, I will see you. You know, that's really rude, but that's what I told her. And so I was forgetting about her soon, because police came, we had a bit of trouble. At the end of the evening, we had to run in different directions. And next weekend, on a Friday, I was in another party, small party, little housewarming party. There was like maybe 8 people. And suddenly the green hair girl showed up. Let's call her Andrea, mainly because it's her name. And Andrea was, it's you, I have to talk to you about God. And I was like, oh, what? She's there again. And so it was Friday night, and we spoke until Saturday afternoon about God. And she convinced me to visit her church and because I said, this is only old people, this is music I don't understand. Also liturgy, I don't know. People stand up, sit down, do weird things. I don't want that somebody is telling me what to do. And she said, no, but in our place it's different. I was like, okay, it's different. So she made really sure. She came the next day, picked me up from home, and we went to church. And she was right, it was different. There was also families and young people and worship music. Even I don't have no clue what it is at that time. But what really got me, what really catched my heart was that I met at least 15 people I know from before, from different places, even from work or from other incidents. So I was really surprised to see so many people attending church, because in my world, church was not relevant or not even there. It's not even to think about it. I'm not against it or pro. It was not part of my thinking. And so since I said all my friends getting adults basically, or mature, I hang out a lot with some heavy metal fans at that time. And I met a girl. She was part of that group somehow, and she was the ex-girlfriend from one of my guys there. And this is, in our skinhead thinking is, you never ever speak or touch a girl from a friend. That's holy ground. That's not possible. But I always liked her, and she invited me to a small group to come. And then I was like, small group, because remember my Croatian Serbian friend, he also invited me once to small group, and his girlfriend and I were the only German speakers there, and him and his girlfriend and I were the only young people in that time. There was only old Croatian speaking people, and they had to translate everything for us into German, and it was like, that was my picture. This is a small group or a church, how it goes. But then the girl said, no, our place is different. It's young people. It's they are one of us. It's not something special. It's just come. And since, to be honest, I had a little crush on her, I was like, okay, let's go to that small group. So I went there, and I asked them like 1.5 hours question, real questions. Is this a cult? Do you have to pay money for it? Who chooses the music? Who put you guys together? Like 1.5 hours questions. And what really fascinated me was that these people are real and honest. If they don't know, they just told me, I don't know. I met other Christians before and later, and they always tell you some holy things, and I feel always they cover things up even if they don't know. But if somebody honestly tell me he don't know, that's the real person for me. And so after this, the evening, they asked me at the end, hey, is it okay to pray for you? And I was like, yeah, it doesn't hurt me, and these people will be happy, I gave them a hard time, so let's do it. So I sit in the middle, and they're all around me and start to pray. And again, I didn't say it even, they come from a German state church. And the sadly truth is that 90% of the German state churches, the people are not Christians, even the pastors, because by law every pastor has to study in the normal state university, not like in a Christian or in a church university. It's not like a free church. And so a lot of the pastors, they left their belief behind, or they just do it because it's a good thing. And so it was a miracle of God that I find a state church where everyone is Christian, basically, from the pastor to the girl who say hello in the morning. And but don't misunderstand me. It's not like that they would pray out loud in service. They would not speak in tongues or something like this. This is unheard of. Yeah, maybe it's heard. They know it from the Bible, but they would not practice this in public, so to say. And so they laid their hands on me, pray for me, and suddenly I was on fire. It was like my whole body was like, I'm on fire. Not that it hurts, but it's like I really felt fire and the presence of God. And first time in 28 years of my life, as skinhead, you always have to watch your back. People don't know if you're Nazi or not. They try to step you all the time, or like beat you up. And So it was the first time ever I felt peace in my heart, so I can really relax. And also had the supernatural feeling that God answers all my questions. And so my journey to look for the truth was suddenly over, and I felt at home. Years later, I learned this was the baptism in the Holy Spirit. But nobody in the room knows about it and experienced that before, so nobody can tell. But still, God can do this, and this is amazing things. So I would say that was the start, that how I become a Christian. And since that, I was part of that small group. So every Tuesday, I went to that small group. And Wednesdays, Andrea, the green-haired girl, was inviting me to youth group in church. And after like 4 weeks, she said, next week I cannot come, Otto will lead. And so suddenly, out of nothing, I had to prepare biblical truths, I had to read the Bible and to invest in other people. And also in our church, we had a kind of discipleship training. So our youth pastor did every second week for 2 years a special training for all new believers and young people. And so I learned more, even in the state church, about Jesus and who he is. And the girl who brought me into the small group once told me that she is in love with me. And that was the time when I was fasting and praying for a wife, and I was thinking, that's it. God is speaking, and so I thought, let's marry. And we married really fast, like in less than 9 months. Fast. You have to go to a court in Germany first to get married, and then we try to get an appointment in the church. And so we married in end of July in 2000, and we had a church wedding beginning of December in 2000. And beginning of February 2001, I figured something is wrong in our marriage, and I called her and said, I feel you betrayed me. And she was shocked, and she said, yes, that's true. And for me, that was the major shock. So I could not work for 2 weeks. I was totally, my mind was blown, because, your yes is a yes and your no is a no. And also, in our Skinhead group, the motto was our honor is to be truthful. And so it was not even an option to think about it, but that happened to me. And so we started new, we moved in another apartment. I invested a lot of time and energy to fix everything, make everything new. And after I felt like 6 weeks or so, she moved out. I did not even know where to go. And so I was totally down. It was worst time of my life. And so I had to go to a doctor that they can write me off from work, because I could not focus and think anything else. And I was sitting in the waiting hall for the doctor, and suddenly God spoke to me and said, why would you be married to somebody who's not loving you? And I was thinking, this must be the devil, because in my wedding vow I promised to stay in good times and in bad times, and it was obviously bad times, but I promised to stay. But I was confused, and I can hear God. And I spoke to the doctor, and she said, oh, I'm Catholic doctor, it's no problem. You should go to your pastor and speak about this. And I was like, okay, this is even weirder that the doctor is telling me this. And so I went to my pastor. He's just, by accident, living 3 streets far away from my doctor. So, and I knocked there, and they see me in my face and see that I'm totally done. And they said, come and sit with us. And I said, we already prayed since a long time that you understand this wedding was not from God, and it's okay to get divorced. And this is from a state pastor, this is a no-go in state church. It's just never heard of, yeah. People has to leave the church to do something like this, but he was like, nope, this is what we believe, it's from God. And so I tried to get in contact with her again, there was no such things like Facebook at that time. And through friends we had together. I found her, and the first thing we did is we went to a Christian family marriage counseling, and then we figured out she actually doesn't want to be married. And so we asked the pastor if he can tell us a Christian lawyer, because in Germany you have to go again to court and it needs basically years to fix that. So we find the Christian lawyer, and he educated me that he can be only the lawyer of one of us. But I have to pay him anyways, because she was still studying and I was working already. And so as a gentleman I said, yeah, then be her lawyer, and if I have to pay you anyways. I wasn't even out of the room. He said to her, we can rip off your husband really badly. And I was like, wow, nice, a Christian lawyer. And she was saying, no, we agreed to make it peaceful. And he was like, I just was testing you. If you would say something else, I would kick you out of my office. I was like, yes, a real Christian lawyer. And so in German law, you have to be separated for a year, and it must be proven in front of a court. And so the whole time I was already 1 year, 5 months or so separated, but then we had to put another year on top of it. So on the 8th of May 2003, 17 years ago, we had to go to court. She was not there. Her lawyer, my lawyer, was there because she was snowboarding with her boyfriend at that time. And there was the verdict that we are divorced. And since then I had a problem with trusting God in that area, and also girls. But through a lot of counseling and a lot of grace of God and forgiveness, I'm trusting again. Yeah. And this is the good news I want to share. There's much more to say, but looking on the watch and see the time is running like crazy. If you want to know how I got into mission, how it was when I was in Africa and saw dead men rising, an angel, demons cast out, then say it in the comments and we will make another video. Thank you for listening all the long time, and God bless you.